Welcome to another fun-filled evening of Olio storytellers. How many of you have been to one of these events before? Well, a few. The rest of you that haven't, you're in for a real treat. I guarantee it. If I'm wrong, don't tell me about it. Olio, it's... Did you hear me the first time?
Yeah.
Is anybody on the street? Can you hear me out there? The term olio in cooking. Olio is a Spanish stew in which many ingredients are mixed together. In storytelling, an olio is a variety program in which a group of storytellers, as we're going to have tonight, take turns. They're going to take turns, right? You're not going to do it all at one time. Telling tales that can amuse, empower, change, or even challenge us. Does that sound like a real dynamic introduction? Olio Storytellers Collective believes in the power of story to spark imagination, preserve community history, share customs, and connect with people of all ages. Before we continue, I have a few important announcements to share with you. Bathrooms. We all need a bathroom once in a while. There are two bathrooms, one immediately behind the stage, the other one in the front upstairs. Anyone familiar with the term check-in? You've heard of that term? Exactly. You can check in and tell people that you're at the Fusion. Anybody want to do that right now? I'll give you five minutes. I'm at the Fusion. Wow.
I'll take care of that. I'll use the interwebs.
And the other important, after you get done with your devices, okay, we're going to have to shut them all off.
Yes, sir.
On stun. We don't want to interrupt our storytellers. All right, once again, this evening we're going to be featuring 11 storytellers. If you look in your flyer, you'll see one of them says she's not going to perform.
No, there's only
I think there's only 8.
What did I say?
11.
Did I say 11?
Yes.
Was anybody taking notes? There will be a test on this before we leave. The doors will be locked, you know. So you either pass the test or you don't get out of here. All right, so I've been corrected, I understand. This is the first time. I feel terrible here. All by myself up here, I'm feeling the pressure. All right, this evening, once again, we'll be featuring 8, not 11. The other 3 did not show up, so we're going to have just the 8. And they're hopefully, I'm right on this now. We're going to be sharing stories about Christmas. Am I correct? Christmas stories. Whew. All right. Without further ado. I like that term, don't you? Without further ado. We're going to, oh, by the way, my name is Dan Sitka. I'm the emcee. Remain seated. I'll tell you when to stand. We have an order of storytelling tonight, and the first storyteller is Dave Gourdoux. Dave suffers from agoraphobia, the abnormal fear of leaving one's house while wearing a wool sweater. He's the author of Ojibwe Valley. Can I tell you, I'm also a book author? When Lincoln Met Wisconsin's Nightingale is the title of my book. Thank you very much. Hold the applause till later. One of my groupies in the audience here. Where did I, Ojibwe Valley is a novel, a contributing writer to Second First Look, an arts-oriented website, and he hosts his own website, Drivel by Dave. Help me introduce this wonderful individual, Dave Gourdoux.
Thank you. Can you hear me back there? This story takes place in December of 1972. The setting is a high school cafeteria where a table of 4 freshmen, seated in a row on the same side of an otherwise empty table, suddenly and unexpectedly found themselves surrounded by greasers. Greasers was a term used at the time for the thugs, the hoods, legitimate badasses who had a reputation in our small town for bullying and trouble. The leader of the greasers was a guy named Earl Kowalski, who had a well-earned reputation for being the meanest and craziest and cruelest badass in town. Now, I was one of the freshmen. Look at me now, you might find this hard to believe, but I was small, maybe the smallest kid in my class. I was 5'2" and weighed 95 pounds, sopping wet. There was one part of my anatomy, though, that was disproportionately large. And no, it wasn't that, unfortunately. Rather, it was my mouth. I had a big mouth that I shot off constantly with no regard for consequence. I was a smart ass, my big mouth constantly running checks that my puny little body couldn't cash. And I ended up too often in trouble I had no business getting into. So anyway, so that day I was one of the freshmen, and we were all sitting in a row. I was on the far left. There was freshman 1, freshman 2, freshman 3, and myself. When suddenly these greasers just appeared and surrounded our table, very threatening, very claustrophobic. And so Earl Kowalski himself was there, so he gets up and he says, "You know what, guys? It just don't feel much like Christmas this year, does it? I've been trying to figure out why, and I think I finally figured out why it don't feel much like Christmas. It's because we ain't had any Christmas music. Nothing gets in the Christmas spirit like Christmas music, right?" And they all grunted their agreement. And so Earl says, "We're going to change that today. We're going to get us some Christmas music, and we're going to get us in the Christmas spirit." So then he went up to freshman 1 over here and says, "Kid, I want you to get up on this table and sing us a Christmas song. And if you don't, we're going to kick your ass." So freshman 1 says, "Oh, golly gee whiz there, Earl, I don't know. I'm awfully shy by nature. It'd be too embarrassing. Find somebody else, will you?" And with that, the greasers converged around freshman 1, and they beat the crap out of him. Just beat him into submission until he was a crumpled heap laying there on the floor. And blood and tears are oozing out of his body and draining and starting to pool right there on the floor of the cafeteria. And poor freshman 1, he was broken, bruised, battered, beaten. There's one more B, I can't think of it right now. Bloodied. I think it started out bloodied. So anyhow, so it was a disgusting sight, you know. So then Earl walks up to freshman 2 and he says, "Kid, either you sing a Christmas song, get up on this table and sing a Christmas song, or we're going to kick your ass." Which freshman 2 replied, "I don't think that's going to happen, Earl. You see, my religion strictly forbids such enthusiastic displays of enthusiasm as singing Christmas songs." So the greasers converged upon freshman 2, and they just pound the living crap out of them. It's a horrible sight. There's nothing. All that's left of freshman 2 is a pile of gelatinous goo. And they take them and they throw them on top of the crumpled heap that was freshman 1. So now the crumpled heap is 2 freshmen deep. And blood and perspiration and tears are oozing out of both their bodies and intermingling and draining and forming a puddle right there on the cafeteria floor. And poor freshman 2, he's broken, he's bloody, bruised, battered, bent. I think that's all the B's. So now there's only 2 freshmen left. There's myself and freshman 3. And sure enough, Earl walks up to freshman 3 and says, "Kid, either you get up on the table and sing us a Christmas song, or we're going to kick your ass." Which freshman 2 replied, "I don't think that's going to happen, Earl. You see, my religion strictly forbids such enthusiastic displays of enthusiasm as singing Christmas songs." So the greasers converged upon freshman 2, and they just pound the living crap out of them. It's a horrible sight. There's nothing. All that's left of freshman 2 is a gelatinous pile of gelatinous goo. And all that's left of freshman 3 is a pile of His freshman 3, of course, replies, I'm sorry, Earl, I got kind of a scratchy throat and a hoarse voice today. I think I'm coming down with a little bit of a fever. Can I take a rain check, please, huh? Rain check? And of course, the greasers converge on freshman 3, and they just pound him into submission, into oblivion. There's nothing left of freshman 3 but about 150 broken pieces of him laying there on the floor. And one of the greasers comes out with a shovel. Where he got a shovel in the middle cafeteria, and he shovels up the broken pieces, and he throws them on top of the crumpled heap. So now the crumpled heap is 3 freshmen tall. And I remember I'm only 5'2" at the time, so the crumpled heap is almost as tall as I am. Making it an even more intimidating sight. So now Earl's approaching me. I'm the last freshman standing, all 5'2", 95 pounds of me. And Earl comes up to me and says, "Kid, I want you to..." And he stopped. In mid-sentence, he stopped. The reason he stopped was he looked up and I wasn't there anymore. I was up on that table. I was halfway through the first verse of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now, this was December of 1972, and the television airwaves at the time were dominated by the cheesiest and the schmaltziest of all entertainment venues, the Celebrity Christmas Show. And they had these horrible Vegas-style singers like Wayne Newton, Tony Orlando, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and all these horribly schmaltzy Vegas-style acts. But I watched every single one of them, and as bad as they were informing my performance. So I'm singing my very soulful ballad version of Rudolph, and I'm putting everything into it. I look down at the greasers, and they're all like this. They're all completely confused. They never, no kid had ever gotten up and sang before. You know. No kid had low enough self-esteem to get up there and humiliate himself. And not only was I up there humiliating myself, I was enjoying it. You know? So they had no idea what to do. They were good at one thing, that was kicking people's ass. But otherwise, they were completely befuddled. And I'm singing, I'm putting my heart, and I mastered that one trick of the cheesy schmaltzy shows where they had the sudden shift in tempo where they took a slow ballad and so they made it swing, made it rock. So you know the part of Rudolph that goes, "Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?" Hey, so I'm throwing in haze and woes and baby. And I get to the end of the song, and I've sang my song, so I should be done, right? But they're all still flabbergasted, so I figure as long as I'm up on that table, they're not kicking my ass. So the show must continue. So I told a little joke I worked up just for the occasion. In the joke, I'm Rudolph, and I say, you know, I just flew in from the North Pole, and boy, are my antlers tired. Thank you. Better reaction I got from the greasers. So I dived right into my second song. I did Jingle Bells, and I'm dashing through the snow, and I'm slaying whatever the hell they do in that stupid song. And I get done with that, and there's still. So I look at the clock and water. There's still a little bit of time left in lunch period, so I launched into my version of Deck the Halls. I'm really giving it all I got. I'm really swinging. And then the bell rings. In the middle of a fa la la la, the bell rings, and I'm saved by the bell. Lunch period's over, so I immediately say, "Well, folks, that's all the time we have tonight. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here all week. Good night and drive safely." And with that, I hopped off the table. I was met by a wall of greasers, and so I tapped one on the shoulder. And much to my amazement, the greasers parted like I was Charlton Heston in the Red Sea. And I walked through them. No, I strutted through them. I strutted through them as if I was walking out on a red carpet, and I walked past them and past the crumpled heap of the other 3 freshmen that were still laying there, and their pool of blood that had coagulated and hardened by now. I walked right out into the afternoon, saved by the bell, and spared the wrath of the greasers. Now the next day, to close this thing up real quick, the next day I walk into the cafeteria, the pool of blood and the crumpled heaps are all gone. There's no sign of them. No sign of the other 3 freshmen either, so I figured they're in a hospital somewhere in various degrees of traction. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling good about my performance the day before. And who do I see approaching but Earl Kowalski and 3 or 4 of his greaser sidekicks? I think, oh shit. But then it occurred to me, you know, I'm not afraid of these guys anymore. So what if they kick my ass? I got 2 older brothers who have given me worse ass kickings than this guy could ever give me. You recover from them. So I'm not afraid. And no matter what they do to me, they can never take away the fact that yesterday I got up on that table and I swung, baby. I rocked that place. So Earl comes up to me and says, "Hey kid." I said, "Oh great, here it comes." He says, "I just want to let you know how much I enjoyed your show yesterday." I said, well, thanks, Earl. He says, and the other research kind of started chiming in and agreed to tell me how good it was and what a command I had of the room and so on. And then Earl says, "Kid, your show was so good. I think every kid in the school ought to have the chance to see it." I said, "Well, thank you, Earl. It's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me." And it was the nicest thing anybody had ever said to me. And it was Earl Kowalski, of all people, saying it. So I'm feeling pretty good, and the other researchers are all telling me how good my show is, and I'm basking in a moment. And for a second I closed my eyes, and I felt my feet leave the ground, and I was floating on their accolades. And I'm thinking next year it'll be the Bob Hope Christmas special, the Bing Crosby Christmas special, and now there's going to be the Dave Gourdoux Christmas special. Now I have Ricardo Montalban on as my first guest. And next thing you know, I felt some strange force pull my arms high above my head. I opened my eyes and realized I wasn't floating at all. One of the greasers had a hold of my legs and one had my arms, and they were carrying me out the room, outside the cafeteria into the hallway beyond. And there in the hallway, all the other greasers were waiting for us. And they took me and lifted me high above their heads, which is pretty easy because they're only 95 pounds. And it was like I was body surfing in a mosh pit. And they moved me to the other side of the hallway where the big rectangular doors to the gymnasium were. And I never noticed before, but high above the door on the wall, there's a little hook that protruded out. And they lifted me up as high as they could until my belt loop snagged on that hook. So I was sitting there suspended by my belt loop, high above the hallway below. And Earl says, "Kid, looks like you're gonna be there for a while. So if I were you, I'd start singing now." And with that, Earl and all the greasers went into the cafeteria, left me alone in the hallway. But I soon realized that Earl was right about one thing, because down the hallway, the next lunch period was coming towards me, and the hallway was filled with thousands of kids, it looked like. And I realized every kid, in order to get to the cafeteria, every kid in the school would have to walk past those doors of the gymnasium. So Earl was right that every kid would get a chance to see my show. So if any of you were in Union Grove High School in 1972 and you have some vague recollection of some 5'2", 95-pound, scrawny-ass kid hanging from his belt loop above the gymnasium door singing Christmas songs at the top of his lungs, that was me.
I don't know about you, but I'm in the holiday spirit right now, aren't you? Oh, I can't wait to get going. What a marvelous story. Whew. I'm depressed. All right, I don't know how we're going to top this. This is really good. Really good, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Our next performer has performed and directed shows with the award-winning WGTD Radio Theater since its first season. She also reenacts historic Kenoshans and dynamic performances at the annual History Walk at Green Ridge Cemetery. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Viki Dumez.
Thanks, Dave. Just a little too short. Okay. My family Christmases were completely unremarkable. Nothing at all like a Christmas movie. Same things year after year. I think it's called tradition. Growing up, we were happy when Uncle Jack would show up for Christmas. He did not always show up. He was my mother's baby brother, and he was very charming. Oh, the ladies just loved him. He showed up one Christmas with his 3-year-old son in tow. He wanted my Aunt Irene, his wife, to babysit. It was not her son. She had just met the boy that day. Surprise! It seemed we were always meeting a new family member. We had a big family and lots of secrets. One of our last Christmases with my father's grandmother, we went as a family to great-grandma's trailer in Whitesburg, Georgia. They had added on a room in the back to make the living room larger. Mom and Dad each got a gift from Uncle Wilbur and Aunt Marilyn. Mom got Charlie, and Dad got Polo. Grandma said, "Look, everybody, Jean's got polio." This was news to Dad. He was worried there for a bit because family secrets. Our Christmases were unremarkable. At one Christmas get-together on my mother's side, my grandmother Zella had some great advice for her granddaughters. Now, Grandma Zella put the fun in dysfunctional, let me tell you. She told us girls that a woman should always marry 3 times. The first time, you should marry someone older because he'll already be established and he can take care of you. The second time, marry someone the same age as you so you can really have a good time. And the third time, marry someone who is younger than you because men wear out quicker than women. Now, when I was younger, this sounded good to me. My mother's father was Grandma Zella's first husband, Marshall. He was a bootlegger and he took the fall for the nice Italian gentleman that he worked with. He got gangrene and lost part of his leg. Each year, he seemed to get shorter. One year, I swear, I was as tall as he was. Grandma Zella's second husband was Ray the Forager. She was so excited when Ray got out of prison. She saved up and bought him a whole new wardrobe, and she even got him a job. Alas, bliss did not last until Christmas that year. He discovered his true passion was forgery, and he was back in prison again. Husband number 3 was Grandpa Raymond. Yes, 2 husbands in a row with the same name. Kept it easier for her. He was 15 years younger than my grandmother. Probably your best one yet. He outlived her by 8 years. Our Christmases were unremarkable. My parents met by accident. My sister was born when Mom was 16. Another accident. When they found out my mom was pregnant, Mom and Dad eloped to New York. And they were married on Christmas Eve. And Grandmother was not happy. My sister was born on February 1st. Christmas Eve was their wedding anniversary, and we all used to play music together. We were legends in our own minds, self-taught musicians. Mom played the piano, Dad played the ukulele, I played guitar, my little brother played the recorder, and my sister tried to sing. She couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. Our Christmas caroling was unremarkable. Eventually, I got married, and my husband and I started our own family. Just before Christmas one year, my mother popped in for a visit and brought a carton of eggnog with her. She thought the baby might like it. Well, Charlie did like it very much, so she gave him some more, and some more. After Mom went home, Charlie started fussing. I put him over my shoulder to comfort him, and he threw up. After he vomited the second time, I moved to the linoleum floor. Splat! Then I took off my sweatsuit. It was right at that time when my husband came home from work early. So here I am standing in the kitchen in my underwear with our son over my shoulder as he continued to vomit down my back and into my hair and onto the floor. Welcome home, honey. Our twins were born on December 15th. 10 days later, I'm at home and I'm wearing a huge maternity sweatshirt. Oh, I was not feeling well at all. Sitting in the living room where the tree was, rocking my 2 newborn babes wrapped in swaddling cloths, the lights twinkling, it's quiet. Sounds idyllic, doesn't it? Suddenly and without warning, I had to put the 2 newborn babies down on the floor. I lifted up my sweatshirt and tossed all my Christmas cookies into that shirt. Ah, the sights and smells and sounds of Christmas. Ours were unremarkable. When our daughter Katie was learning to read, our Christmas stockings were all hung by the chimney with care. She studied them and asked, "Who's Leon?" I thought it was funny. Yeah. Everyone is familiar with the elf on the shelf and how he moves around the house and you never know how he'll turn up. My children took the same liberty with our Christmas decorations, especially the nativity set. Balthazar was often found waging war with a shepherd in the pantry. Baby Jesus was safely tucked into bed in the Victorian dollhouse under the watchful eye of Scoops the pelican, who was a beanie baby. Mary and Joseph often double-dated with Barbie and Ken. One Christmas night, shortly after Bob and I collapsed from our late-night assistant to Santa, the children woke each other up and snuck downstairs to see if Santa had come. They knew not to open their gifts, but they took that opportunity to eat the candy canes that were hanging on the tree as decorations. The next morning, their little red sticky mouths betrayed their protest that it was Santa who had copped the candy canes. What remained of our Christmas decorations was unremarkable. The one and only time we went to Sears to get a family Christmas photo taken took over 2 hours to get the whole family ready, and we were late for the appointment. 4 kids squabbling, runny noses, patience worn thin. Well, Bob and I were outnumbered. "Sit down, shush, not now, smile." And that was just to get into the van. The photographer did her best, but the photos never made it on Christmas cards. So then we tried taking the children to Santa, see Santa, and get our annual picture taken with Santa. What a disaster. They were afraid of Santa, and they cried in the line, and the line seemed to grow longer and longer, and Santa grew less jolly. So we decided we'd take our family Christmas photos at home. It was always grueling. It typically took 52 shots of pictures. It did not get easier as they grew. We abandoned the family Christmas photos long ago. Our Christmas photos were unremarkable. One year, we bought a Playmobil Victorian dollhouse for our 6-year-old daughter, Carolyn. "Some assembly required," printed on the box. It came with a long and complicated set of instructions in 3 different languages. My husband quipped, "These instructions make no sense. Perhaps if I knew Chinese." He was up until the wee hours of the morning with a bottle of super glue. Miraculously, he had pieces left over. He was always very efficient. Carolyn loved it, and that dollhouse is still standing, put together in our basement. One year I complained to my mother about some minor frustration in my life, and her warm maternal advice was, "Victoria, you have to put on your big girl panties and deal with it." I shared this story with my older sister. That year, my sister bought the biggest pair of white cotton Hanes granny panties she could find and printed on the back in big, bold, black block letters, "Big Girl Panties," Serena B's Day, and gave it to me for Christmas. We all shared a good laugh. Just before Christmas in 2009, my mother died in jail. I'm not making this up. On the plus side, we were able to give our daughter Carolyn Mom's beat-up silver Chevy Cavalier. We parked it in the driveway, big ribbon and bow on it, strategically placed to cover the rust and the body damage. Our Christmas gifts were unremarkable. My husband and I have been married for 32 plus years. All 4 of our children are now college educated and some post-grad, and they're all happy, healthy, contributing members of society. And we are all looking forward to another unremarkable Christmas together. That's remarkable.
Doesn't that sound like a family that you'd like to be part of? That's the true spirit. Are we ready for another storyteller? Yeah. I hear some snoring back there. I don't know what that's. Is that reading or just? Pay attention up here. Our next presenter is an avid reader, and many of the writers, Poe and H.G. Wells, who influenced him, can be seen in his works. He specializes in flash fiction. He believes that any story with merit can be told in under 1,000 words. Help me introduce Mr. Walter Gascoigne.
Thanks everybody coming out tonight for my birthday. So, if you want to buy me a shot, or I can give you my ex-girlfriend's phone number, you could prank her. That would be great. Otherwise, thank you, because I know it's cold. They wanted me to tell a Christmas story, and they said, we don't want to put on the flyer that it's not appropriate for all ages. And they know how hard that is for me to do a story. So I thought really hard, and I'm like, wait a minute, I do have a Christmas story that's perfect, appropriate for everybody. It starts same time of the year, December 12th, 11th, 14th, something, back when I was 14, cold out, dark out, my birthday. My friends decide, hey, let's drink. We're teenagers. Yay. Where do we drink, though? We can't go to houses. So we have this little 2-acre wood. And if you were here for my last story, you know it. It's Sears Trails. It was right behind Sears on the north side, on Sears Plaza, surrounded by houses. It wasn't very big. They had a lot of trails going through it, and kids would go back there, drink and ride bikes, and just be kids, teenagers. Cops knew about it, of course. Yeah. That's where we were headed. So we go out there on that December cold night, and 4:30, it's already dark. We're waiting for Joe to get there. Joe's a 16-year-old that looks like he's 90. He's got this full beard and everything. So we're waiting for him to get the alcohol. He finally gets there after we got a little fire going. We walk up to the liquor store, which was right there. And outside of the liquor store, Joe goes in. We gave him all our quarters and dimes. There were maybe 8 or 9 of us. We gave him all the money to get what he can get. And there's a bum waiting outside. And he's asking for money. I only had $1 left. I was going to save it for McDonald's on the way home. But I gave it to him because I felt sorry for him. It was very cold. And he said thank you. I didn't think nothing of it. Joe came out. We all went back to the place back there, started drinking, listening to music, having a great time, smoking, passing it around. Highway to Hell comes on the boombox. The fire's it's just blazing huge in this middle of a little, there's houses all around us. Somebody had to see the smoke. And we're having a great time. Next thing I know, there's a flashlight on my face. And then it goes to everybody around the camp place, and they all drop their beers. The joint falls out of the mouth. The music shuts off, and there's a cop less than 2 feet from where we're standing. He's right there. I don't know how long he's been there. He probably could have been there all night. We didn't even know. He looks at me specifically at me and says, "Nobody move." Everybody looks at each other. They all heard "nobody move." I heard "run." So I start running. I got up. Boom, I'm out of there. He goes, "Hey." He starts running after me. I knew the trails very well. I've been there my whole life. Well, 3 years of my whole life. And I was running very fast in the dark, knowing where I was going. The cop was a young cop, but obviously better physically than I was. And he ain't catching up, though. I'm doing very well. I knew the trails. He's got the flashlight. He's got to follow. And next thing I know, I hit something in the snow. I'm down on my face. And before I could get up, he's on top of me. Bam! Oh, he grabs me by the back, takes me, puts the handcuffs on me, and tells me, why would you run? I'm scared. I don't want my mom to know. Well, good excuse. So he's walking down the trail in front of me, asking me which way is the way to his car, because he didn't know. I told him, so I'm following him. And as he's on his radio talking to other cops, telling them about the other people that are running away now because they chased me, he's getting further and further in front of me, and I'm walking slower, slower, slower. He's still talking. And I started walking a little bit backwards, a little more. And before I know it, I'm like this. The cop turns around, he's like, "Hey, where are you going?" I said, "Home." He chases me down, and it's really, I don't know if you guys ever try to run in handcuffs. When you get home, try to run like this. It's not easy, even if you're on a straight path. So I'm flying down there as best I could, and of course he catches up to me. Bam! Lands on top of me again. Drags me up. Puts me in front of him this time. He's not losing sight of me. And asks me where the car is again. I tell him. So we start walking through the trail to his car. We finally get there. He's on the phone the whole time talking about all these other kids that are running around out there. And cops, they were parked all on the outside. He puts me in the back of the cop car. He starts talking again and then gets out and goes to meet another police officer who's down further. I'm in the back of a cop car. No way to get out. There's no handles. If anybody's been there, you know what I mean. There's no handles in there. I got handcuffs on. This plastic shield in front of me. I hear a knock at the window. As I'm thinking about my mom's gonna kill me. I hear a knock at the window, and there's Santa Claus. I'm like, no way did I smoke that much and drink that much. No, there's Santa Claus. But he knocks again. And he says, "Hey." And I'm like, he opens the door. And I'm thinking, no way, this has got to be like a cop trick. Maybe the FBI's going to crib my mom, might jump out or something. But no, he lets me out of the car. He takes me by the cuffs. And he unlocks the key. And as I'm looking at him, I notice in his eyes that he's that bum that I gave the $1 to. He says, "Merry Christmas. This is your present. Make sure you tell everybody about Santa Claus. Santa Claus is real." And I didn't bother to ask him any of that. I turned around and started running back towards the plaza where I knew I could get in the laundromat or by cars and hidden from the police. And I booked and turned around, but when I got to the laundromat and I turned around, he wasn't there anymore. And there was no way he could have went anywhere without me seeing him going somewhere. The cop wasn't back at the car. The back of the door was open. The handcuffs were on the ground. And I never saw him again. Never saw that man again. But every Christmas now, whenever I'm having a bad time or I feel like I'm trapped, I always ask for him, and sometimes I get it not in the way that it is with him, but sometimes it comes back to me, and he still helps me out of bad spots, so I don't have to be in that situation again.
Listen, that's what Christmas is all about. That was warm and touching, and I mean, come on, the bum or the night. It was a nice man, right? We've seen him all around. All right, now listen. We're going to be doing number 4. Can you believe that? Ooh, The next presenter. This is. All seriousness aside now, please. You didn't hear a word I said, did you? Our next presenter is a native of the Ukraine. She immigrated to the United States in 1949. She has taught junior, senior, and college level courses in English, speech, drama, and history. She has also taught the Ukrainian language to children. She is a member of the Kenosha Writers Guild and is working on a novel. Please help me welcome Irene Bilak.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here. Christmas is usually a very joyous time, a very happy time for most, but sometimes for some it's not. I have written stories that I have told here. This one, however, was written by Hans Christian Andersen, and it's called The Little Match Girl. Once upon a time, in a large city, a little girl lived with her father and her 3 siblings. They were very, very poor. They were so poor that they had hardly any food to eat. Their flat was very cold. The wind just howled through it. The children would put straw in the holes of the tenements so that they would stay a little warmer. Father didn't have any work, so he sent his children sometimes out into the street to see what they could do to gather some money. The little girl was talkative, friendly, liked people, so Father designated the little girl to go out and sell matches. She took her matches, put on a nice warm scarf, and the tattered coat that was hers. It was not very warm. On her feet, she had her deceased mother's old slippers, which of course were much too big for her. As she walked the streets, it was so very cold. She tried to huddle and keep warm, but it was no use. And pretty soon, she lost one of her slippers that was too big, and pretty soon the other one. So her feet were pretty much bare except for those torn stockings that she wore. But she didn't give up. She continued to walk. And as she walked, she would say, "Matches, matches for sale." However, no one paid attention to her. The streets were busy with merrymakers, for it was New Year's Eve. They were shopping, they were talking, they were laughing. Didn't pay any attention. Again, though, she said, "Matches, matches, matches for sale." No answer, not even a farthing, nothing, no pennies. She was very cold and she was very hungry. As she walked on, she saw kind of a gangway, an alley between 2 buildings. And she thought, I'd have to sit down and warm up. It is so, so very cold. And as she sat there, she decided, what if I were to light one of the matches that I didn't sell? Perhaps that will keep me warm. Sure enough, she struck the match, and a beautiful light appeared on the building across from her. And what she saw was amazing. A table laden with a white tablecloth, cakes, cookies, fruit, and in the middle, a beautiful, succulent goose. It was so close to her, she wanted to reach out and have some. But soon, of course, the match flickered and fell, and there was no more light. What to do? Oh, I have more matches. I'll light another. She struck a second match, and again, a beautiful vision, this time of a gorgeous, tall tree lit with candles and the most beautiful ornaments from around the world. On the bottom of the tree lay presents, obviously from St. Nicholas, for all good children. But there was none for her. The match again went out, and it became dark and cold and frustrating for the little girl. What could she do? She thought of some happiness she had had in her life, and that was happiness with her grandmother. Her grandmother was so good to her. Her grandmother cooked for her, baked cookies for her, paid attention, told stories. Oh, grandmother, if I could only see you. And then she had an idea. What if I were to light all the matches, and then maybe another vision will come? And so she did. She lit all the matches at once, and there was a beautiful big flame and light. And there was in the sky her grandmother. Grandmother, take me with you. And she felt as if her grandmother put her arms around her. And took her into heaven. The next day, New Year's Day, passers-by saw the body of the little girl in the snow. This is my story, Hans Christian Andersen's story. I wish all of you a happier Christmas, a happier New Year, with geese and ducks, ham, turkeys, whatever your heart desire, but especially a very happy, loving family. Merry Christmas.
Very well done. Very popular Hans Christian Andersen, something that we can all relate to. Thank you very much. Very heartwarming, heart-wrenching type of a dissertation. Now that the four...
Leave me alone, go judge.
Was it something I missed?
No, I got worked up. I'm sorry.
Did you?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
That's good, that's good. A very touching piece of poetry there. Thank you very much. Not poetry, but prose. All right, now after we've completed our four tellers, we're going to be taking a little break. A lot of you are ready to take a little break. You'll wake up now because you've been sleeping through the first four. We'll take about a 10-minute break. Remember where the bathrooms are? Front and one back here. Come back. The bar is open, so please help her, imbibe. Help the establishment.